Paltrocast. I'm going to say good morning to you, right? You're on the West Coast?
I'm in Atlanta, so I guess it's afternoon now.
Okay, got it. So
I
it's
have
not coffee time anymore. You're past the coffee part of the day?
I am. If I have coffee past 10 o'clock in the morning, it's trouble for me.
I hear you. Well, are you ready for a bunch of compliments about how great you and Yacht Rock Review are, or are you maxed out with all that?
Man, I have an un I have a there's an unending need for that in my life. Unfortunately, like I was born with this just visceral need for affirmation from other people.
I hear you. Well, first let's talk about the new original songs that came out. Or rather are coming out. The first one is this Friday, but by the time everyone sees this, it'll already have come out. So we'll confuse the verb tenses right there. But when did you actually track those songs versus announcing they were coming out?
Let's see. We went into the studio a year ago in November to start. So we started, I guess that was 22, November of 22, recorded through like January of 24, and then I mixed it and it's coming out now.
Wow. Okay. So you sat on that for a while. Now, was that tied in with the fact that you have the big summer tour where you felt, hey, all the eyeballs are on us, or did it just take a while to mix and master?
Well, part of it is that it's a double album, actually. It's 21 songs. So that in and of itself just took a long time. We recorded the basic tracks in November, and then the
Ah,
overdubbing process was fairly lengthy. Also, I produced another album kind of in the middle of that for this acapella band, Straight No Chaser.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I produced their most recent album. So I
Wow.
went to the studio with them, did that whole record. We started our record, put that on pause, did the whole Straight No Chaser record, and then I came back to our record.
See, my misinformation, because I leave my errors in, is that I thought that there was just two new tracks. I didn't realize that there was 20 something new tracks of
Well,
original.
the two that are coming out are the only two we've announced. We're going to announce the album with the next two. Uh,
Wow.
so, yeah,
Wow, there you go. And is it the same lineup that tours with the band that's on the record?
it is. Yeah, same guys, same girls,
That's
same.
kind of a rarity because you find the people who can hang on the road that are good in the room are not necessarily the people who can play on the records. In your case, you have both the best of both worlds.
Even I mean, some of the original yacht rock bands were that way, right? Like
Exactly.
they didn't necessarily take the same guys out that they had in the studio. That's kind of the nature of this music.
So my love of yacht rock goes back to the original Channel 101 series. And your band did not form long after that. I would argue you were the original yacht rock group and also the longest lasting and all that. How long was it from seeing that series, if you did, to going, okay, we got to get this band going?
But we had planned. We had this club that gave us this kind of basement dive bar club that gave us every Thursday night to do anything we wanted. We could do comedy, we could do soul music, original music covers. They were just like, we trust you guys, just do your thing. We had planned to do this one-off night called 70s AM Gold that was based on a dentist office mix that our drummer had made of songs that like are annoying when you hear them in the dentist office. And it was all supposed to just be fun and whatever. And a couple weeks before the show, we discovered the Channel 101 series, and we're like, yeah, rock, that's a great name for it. Let's just call the show that. And we just thought it was going to be a one-off show and nothing more. We weren't intending to turn our band in that direction, but you know 15 years later, here we are.
Here you are doing a shed tour with
Right.
bands who've sold millions of records. It's great to see that Train and REO Speedwagon have a sense of humor because there's other bands who've sold comparable numbers of records to them that would never want to tour with a band that had any kind of a humor slant to them. Now, granted, you're real musicians who can back it up, but again, it's comedy to a certain extent. That's not offensive to you, correct?
No, I mean, I think there's like a line you got to walk, right? Like you want to take. I think the reason that everyone who gets us musician wise really gets us is that they understand that we're taking the music seriously, but we're not taking ourselves too seriously, right? Like when you're doing this kind of show, you can't act like you're one of the Oasis Gallagher brothers. You have to have a certain sense of self about you, and I think that's the lightheartedness that people can connect with.
It's great to see that some of the artists that you've covered have been doing shows with you, respect you, etc. When I interviewed George Benson, I think it was 2014, 2015, he had never heard the term yacht rock up until that interview. When did
Wow.
you start to notice that the AM Gold artists were cool with the term and the concept?
Cool with it, I would say, like the last 5 years, like pretty recently. I think for a long time it was a dirty word to
Yeah.
guys, and I think as the genre became more well known, there's a Sirius XM channel. It's definitely, maybe the Channel 101 series, there's some like tongue in cheek, like, oh, this is funny, right? But like modern yacht rock, that's not what people think at all. People are like, I love this music, it's my favorite genre, let's go rock. Like, it's not, there's no being funny about it now. And I think with that turn is when the artists started to understand, oh, this is something that is saying that I'm cool, not that's making fun of me.
With that genre that we are talking about right here, I loved this podcast I used to listen to for a while called Yacht or Nyat. Did you ever
Yes.
listen to that one?
Same guys, yeah.
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 Now, that leads to debates as to whether or not something is yacht rock. Do you ever get involved in those debates?
I certainly catch the crossfire in those debates whenever we choose to play a song by Queen or Boston or whoever else it is that we feel like covering. I mean, it's not in my best interest to put limits on what yacht rock is, because that just puts limits on what we're allowed to do on stage or in our recording career or whatever. I leave that to the academics to debate what is and isn't yacht rock. To me, yacht rock's just a vibe, and if it feels good, let's roll.
So the yacht or yacht people were really offended that people would lump in Eddie Money with yacht rock. To you, is Eddie Money a yacht rock artist?
I mean, most of his music, I would say, is not, but "Baby Hold On to Me" is pretty freaking smooth. We played with Eddie several
Yeah,
times. He was like the sweetest,
very
fun
funny guy.
guy. Oh, he's hilarious. Doesn't take himself too seriously. Like, just so friendly and unassuming. Man, I love that guy. I have so many more memories of Eddie Money. He was cool.
Same here. I got to interview him 3 or 4 times, and he would tell you the same jokes every time, but
Definitely, yes. Repeated
but,
the joke.
but they were great. They were
Yeah.
great jokes. So, in getting to perform with a lot of the star artists from the supposed genre, how much of it is the promoter combining them with you versus you folks seeking out these artists?
Usually us seeking them out. I mean, it has to be the right fit, of the venue and the vibe and whatever. Um, I mean, lately we haven't been doing it as much just because the touring schedule has been so intense that we haven't had time to organize and call up Robbie Dupree and say, "Hey, man, how about this Saturday in August?" But we've been talking about trying to get that back together, because with the old timers, you don't know how long you've got until they're ready to retire and hang it up and don't want to sing their songs anymore. So I think we're going to try and get a little bit of that going this fall.
I remember seeing some Robbie Dupree reissues a couple of years ago, and his big album, he'd also cut that in Spanish. Did you know that?
I did it. I need to talk to him about that.
Yeah, the list of people who cut albums in Spanish, like there's the great David Lee Roth "Eat 'em and Smile" that he did in Spanish as Sonrisa Salvaje. Do you get involved in all this kind of stuff that you get bombarded with the rarities, or are you able to go, this is where the day job ends? I listen to other stuff too.
I mean, people hit me with the rarities and the side like deep dive facts all the time, and I love to hear it. I've got no problem with it. What I think is really funny though is when people are shocked that I know anything about hip hop or psychedelic rock or whatever other genres there, or basketball. They're like, "Oh, you know about something that isn't yacht rock?" And I'm like, "Yes, actually, there's a whole wide world out there, friends."
Well, did you start off as a Van Halen MTV person?
What do you mean by that question? I'm not
In
sure I follow.
terms of musical evolution, I find that if you are a certain age range, you know, you
Uh,
were a Van Halen, Motley Crue kind of person, or, you know, a couple years after that, you were a Headbangers Ball, Nirvana kind of person, or 120 Minutes person. Where did your musical journey kind of start?
yeah, definitely with Nirvana, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots. Like when I was learning how to play guitar, I learned all that stuff. That's what our high school band did. That was our thing. And then we discovered Pink Floyd and went like way down that rabbit hole, and Fish and Dave Matthews Band and like the neo hippie stuff. Like we were very much like 90s dudes.
Wow, I'm really surprised to hear that because the musicianship of your band is so strong that I picked you guys as secret Van Halen diehards.
Definitely Monkey Boy on guitar and
Oh,
Greg on bass.
so some
Total
of you.
total Van Halen diehards. I mean, I love some Van Halen. Don't get me wrong, but you know, I was a little younger, so the David Lee Roth era of Van Halen, I was a toddler.
No, same here. But I mean, you go back in time and then you realize the genius of all that. But then you also find that there's certain people who went from the shred world of yacht rock to elsewhere. So, for example, Lukather was, you know, the yacht rock guy, but he also did play in a Van Halen album. So
Right.
there's weird overlaps all the time. Any idea what Lukather thinks of Yacht Rock Review?
He has not seen us. We would. I can't remember if we've tried to do a show with him or not. We did. We did some shows with Bobby Kimball, the
Oh,
original
yeah.
singer of Toto, and I worked with David Page some. He sang on the Straight No Chaser yacht rock record that we did. But Lukather's one I haven't gotten to yet. If you're out
Yeah.
there, Steve, let's do this.
So ultimately, is there a laundry list, a long list of people that you're still hoping to collaborate with, or is it just more organic over time?
It's pretty organic. I mean, I love collaborating in music, so I would honestly collaborate with anybody, any of them that would be up for it. You know, getting to tour with Kenny Loggins last year was incredible, and meet him and hang out with him and just soak in his vibe and perfectionism as a musician, and to see him still out there just crushing it at, you know, an age when most people are retired. Like he's still
Yeah.
hitting the high note in forever as though he's my age. And just being around that was inspiring. I was like, man, I want to be like that when I'm his age. I want to still be out there like slaying.
I also put him on that list with Richard Marx and Eddie Money of artists that people don't realize are hilarious and they're much more comedic than their music leads on in any way. Like serious musician, but people who do Borscht Belt material.
Yeah, he's funny, man. He's really funny. He had stories that he would tell in his set, but he and they, you know, they were consistent stories, but he always had a new angle or like a new little joke to throw in, or you know, it wasn't like he was reading the script like Fleetwood Mac the Dance, where they're literally saying the same stuff in between every song, every show. You know, it wasn't like that. It was cool to see him kind of riffing still.
Yeah, on the level of the Fleetwood Mac's Scorpions banter is the same to every night. You get the vibe that Richard Marx is trying out his new one-liners every night. That he's working on his 5 minute Tonight Show comedic set. But anyway, enough of these legends. Back to you here. Straight No Chaser. That's coming out soon as well.
That came out last year. They did an album called Yacht on the Rocks, and I produced it. And they actually just finished their second Yacht Rock tour this summer. They did a Yacht Rock tour last year, and they did a Yacht Rock themed tour this year. So, yeah, I'm really proud of it. We did the one that I was most proud of is that we did the Bobby Caldwell tune,
Yeah.
"Won't Do for Love," but we arranged it a cappella, kind of in the style of Boys to Men or Belle Biv DeVoe. So it had this like New Jack Swing like beat to it, and we were doing the Bobby Caldwell. It was a cappella. It was like just so many different things, and the way it came together was awesome. It was making that record was really fun. A good challenge for me as I had never really worked in a cappella before. It was cool.
Well, two quick questions and then I let you go. And the first one is for the people that are coming out to see with Train and REO Speedwagon. When you've got these originals, is the strategy that you open the set with the originals or midway through the set you do the originals?
We're gonna go kind of midway till leaning towards the end, mainly because as the first band, we want as many people to see our original song as possible. And I figure at 7 o'clock when we start, not everybody's going to be in there yet. So I'm trying to just get that song in front of as many people as I can.
Fantastic. And then the last question, when I talk to comedians, I think that comedians start out in comedy because usually because they love comedy, they consume as much comedy as possible. Then when they're not working over time, they do everything but comedy. They only watch dramas, documentaries. They try to get more literate as time goes on. In your case, you're associated with the most relaxed musical genre of the world. I'd have to assume that you're deep down listening to heavy, heavy stuff. You're not drinking pina coladas when you're off the road, that kind of a thing. What's your passion away from all these musical endeavors you've got going on? How do you decompress?
Oh man, that's a good question. I mean, I talk to people about this. Like, what I do for a living is also what I would do if I didn't have to make any money.
Oh,
So it's there's a gray area when your hobby is also your job, right? But decompression wise, I've got a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old, and that takes up most of the decompressing time. We like to go hiking, riding our bikes, just being outside. Where I would say that our band is several of us are very into sports, which is not usually a band guy thing. Like, I'm always watching basketball or football or whatever. I mean, any sport that's on, bring it. I'm ready. You want to come talk to me about sports on the road? I'm there.
well, Jones Beach, just to let you know, can easily have the basketball hoop set up behind the stage. You just have to ask the people. So
Sweet. That would be
looking
awesome.
forward to that Jones Beach show. Looking forward to the full album. And Nick, thank you for the many years of doing what you and the band do. Really looking forward to what's to come.
Thanks. We love it. We feel lucky to get to do it.
Paltrocast.